Welcome, everyone. This is the first episode of the Good Space podcast. We've been talking about this for years, and I'm so glad you're here. I hope that this is a safe place for you to land, a place where you will invite the people that you love the most, the people who you think might need to learn a little, and because I want to make it a safe place for you to do all those things. This podcast, for me, is a place where we can talk about all things early childhood education and understand the stories of people who have helped shape the profession. The intention of this podcast is to provide information, resources, some education, and hopefully a little inspiration. Today's episode is Everyone Comes from Somewhere, Episode 1. Everyone comes from somewhere. The difference between empathy and judgment lies in our understanding of where you come from. In early childhood education programs, we often say that we take the perspective of the child and that our pedagogical practice is child-centered. What do we mean by that? Child-centeredness seems to be such a concrete and unproblematic concept. But in practice, it's very abstract and rather problematic. The very term child-centered must be thought to embody the modernist understanding of the child, the unified, reified, and essentialized subject at the center of the world that can be viewed and treated apart from relationships and context. This postmodern perspective, in contrast, would decenter the child, viewing the child as existing through relations with others and in particular in a context. Furthermore, this term depends on what we understand the young child is and might be. Who is the child on which this practice is centered? Instead, there are many children and many childhoods, each constructed by an understanding of childhood and what children are and should be. Children's lives are lived through early childhood constructed for them by adults, understanding of children and what children are and who children should be. Let's take a look at this from a historical context. Yuri Bronfenbrenner was a Russian-born American psychologist and is a well-leading world authority in the field of developmental psychology. Bronfenbrenner is best known for having developed human ecological theory, in which individuals are centered as maturing not in isolation, but within the context of relationships. Yuri Bronfenbrenner's ecological theory of human development and socialization context conceptualize children's development as a process of bidirectional and reciprocal relationships between the developing individual and those in the surrounding environments, including parents, practitioners, neighboring communities, researchers, politicians. Bronfenbrenner's ecological system theory articulates that human development is influenced by different types of environmental systems, and that these systems identify as influences on the whole child's landscape. Relation between children and pedagogies, children and parents, and children themselves, the organization of early childhood education pedagogies, practice, philosophies, as well as how early childhood learning programs are ordered and designed in space and time, and what kind of meaning we give to them. Bronfenbrenner's ecological system theory are put into 5 categories: microsystems, the immediate environment; mesosystems, connections; ecosystems, indirect environment; macrosystems, social and cultural values; and chronosystems, change over time. When considering the interacting levels of support for human growth, we refer to the ecological models of human development, in which development is influenced by several environmental systems. These systems include the most intimate systems, the family, and the political forces that influence family. When considering taking the perspective of the child and our pedagogical practice of being child-centered, that learning is relational. Children's brains grow and develop as they interact with their environments. It's important to understand that what occurs throughout the early years literally builds brains and establishes pathways to develop over time. There are options that Bronfenbrenner has said that Ecology has changed our society, influencing our understanding of the dynamic interactions that affect how humans develop and change during childhood and throughout our lives. Critics argue that Bronfenbrenner's ecological model lacks consideration for human nature interconnectedness, focusing solely on human-centered systems. Placing value on the importance of evolving Bronfenbrenner's model to encompass broader systemic interconnectedness, including human-to-nature relationships, to enhance its ability and relevance in diverse contexts. But what does this theory mean for early childhood education, and how might it shape our practice? The most intimate system within early learning is the microsystem, the family and the political forces that influence families. Bronfenbrenner's theory addresses a holistic approach to the perspective of child-centered pedagogical, emphasizing the need to understand all aspects of an individual's environment, to appreciate the complex, interrelated factors that influence development. For example, this theory has been applied extensively within the field of early learning to help design effective learning environments that emphasize the classroom's experience and focus on the influences of families, communities, societies, and the broader culture. Building upon the understanding that these learnings is a cooperative and community activity in which children construct knowledge and make meaning of their worlds with adults is important and underscores that pedagogy is viewed as engaging with and responsive to the social, ethical, political conditions of our time. Additionally, this emphasizes the longitude of Bronfenbrenner's ecological model on children's social and cognitive development. For example, Ontario's Pedagogy for the Early Years articulates that children's early experiences last a lifetime. This statement is influenced by the scientific understanding that during the first years of life, the brain develops at an outstanding rate, and that this process is not generic, but influenced by our early learning experiences with people and surroundings. Early years programs play an important role in supporting children's learning, development, health, and well-being. Evidence from diverse fields of study tell us within early learning programs, children grow when adults are caring and responsive. Children succeed in programs focusing on active learning through exploration, play, and inquiry. Children thrive when they and their families are valued as active participants and contributors. This emphasizes the longitude effects of Bronfenbrenner's bioecological model on children's social and cognitive development and social learning. The purpose of early childhood education profession, as noted in the Early Childhood Education Act, is to promote the well-being and holistic development of children. To meet this commitment, the profession places a primary and unique focus on developing caring and responsive relationships. It is compassionate relationships based practices that engage in ongoing communication and collaboration. Bronfenbrenner's theory allows us to look beyond framework and turn our attention to look at co-constructing communities where we are viewing the children in a holistic context, where they exist through relations with others and the world around them. The power of knowing someone's story can change your understanding of them. Context is a prerequisite to empathy. I encourage you to share and engage in stories because everyone comes from somewhere.